Hey everybody, it's Colt with BleepinJeep. Today we're going to talk about, you guessed it, wheel spacers. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Stay tuned. So there's a few reasons why you'd probably want to run wheel spacers. Number one being maybe you've lifted your vehicle and you've put larger tires on it and now it rubs and you want to push that tire out, or you've bought an expensive set of wheels or wheels that you really like the style of but they only had it in a specific offset and you still need to push it out. Or you're just like me and you believe in the old Pontiac method of wider is better. Well, this is the part where everybody tells you that either wheel spacers are the best thing ever and they got your tire room or your clearance, or they're the worst thing in the world and your wheel's going to fall off and you're going to die. The reality is, these are what really gave wheel spacers a bad name. These were the original wheel spacers. They're shims. They just slide onto the wheel. They don't sit there permanently. They wiggle around and rattle around. These ones are aluminum. They're going to crush every time you torque them. They're pretty much worthless. I would never touch one of these and put them on my vehicle ever. So let's get rid of those. Secondly are these steel spacers, or shims, depending on what you want to call them. These are something that I still really wouldn't want to run. These are made out of a much stronger steel. They're not going to crush. But the reality is they can still wobble around in there, and you are going to have to torque your wheels every single day, every time you go out, to really truly feel comfortable with them. I would not run these either. So next is the bolt-on wheel spacer. These are the ones that really get a lot of attention. These are the ones that I truly believe are safe as long as you know what you're buying and they're put on correctly. Breaking down what kind of wheel spacer we want to run is truly very important. When you're running a bolt-on wheel spacer, you want to make sure that you have T6061 aluminum, quality studs. Hub centric is very ideal if it fits your application. You don't want to just go purchase one from eBay that you don't know anything about. They can't tell you what quality of aluminum it is, whether it be aluminum, steel, forged, billet, whatever. A lot of times they're just going to use the cheapest aluminum, the cheapest steel for the studs, and you're going to find out real quick that that's exactly what you paid for. I personally like to use companies like Spider Tracks that have a known reputation for quality wheel spacers that I've used many times in the past. Next thing I want to talk about is proper install. This is where I see most wheel spacer failures, and it's due to improper installment. The number one thing is making sure that the wheel spacer has a smooth surface to mount to. Most new vehicles have a retainer clip that sits on the stud. You want to make sure that those retainer clips are removed. They're usually held on there to hold the rotor smooth. Make sure that those are off. When you put the wheel spacer on, I personally like to use red Loctite on all those wheel studs, because I want to torque it up and have it stay there. I do not want it to come loose at any time, and it's not easily accessible when you have a tire and wheel on front of it. The normal torque for a half-ton axle is usually 120 foot-pounds. The normal torque for a 3/4 ton or 1 ton is somewhere in the 140 foot-pound range. You definitely want to retorque the wheel spacers about 500 miles into driving them. Make sure that you take the wheels back off and just double check the torque on the wheel spacers and then bolt them back on. And just like making sure that you have a smooth mounting surface for the wheel spacer to the hub, you also want to make sure that you have a smooth surface for the wheel to the wheel spacer. A lot of times the stud sticks out past the point of the wheel spacer. In that case, if you have an 1.25 inch wheel spacer and an 1.5 inch long stud, you're going to have to grind off just a little over 1/4 inch, because you want it to be just inside that flush mount so that the wheel mounts flush directly to the wheel spacer. So things to remember are: always have a smooth mounting surface for your wheel spacer, always have a smooth mounting surface from your wheel to your wheel spacer, always make sure that you have everything torqued correctly, make sure you give it a 500-mile torque check, and make sure you torque them any and every time that you have a tire or wheel off, whether it be tire rotations or just checking something underneath. It's always good to double check them. The last thing we need to cover is the width of what kind of wheel spacer you're going to run. In my case, I have a wheel currently that has a 3-inch backspace on my truck, and the wheel I want to run has a 4 3/4 backspace on it. Therefore, I want to try to do my best to match it. I'm going to run a 2-inch wheel spacer to match that, or get close to matching it and keep the same outside width. But there is a couple ways to measure what you need or what you want. Number one is taking a long yardstick or anything and putting it up against your tire and measuring your fender, and then seeing how far out you want it from there. Otherwise, you can always measure the backspace of your wheel, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So getting an idea of what kind of wheel spacer you want to run off of your wheel's backspace is really just taking the current wheel you have, measuring the face to the outside, and then the new wheel you have is the same, or how much you want to space it out. In my case, I'm going to hold the tape measure right up against the mounting surface and then hold the straight edge right against the wheel, and I have a 4.5-inch backspace. Well, I hope this shed some light on wheel spacers and whether or not they'll fit your application. If it did, if you give us a like, hit that little bell down there, subscribe, maybe even join Patreon, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, I'll see you guys next time.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah, I was building on a lecture. Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on the plot and the scheme. The true style trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one shot for the kill. The breeze come free.